bank account inexplicably frozen. All of the money she had in the world suddenly out of her grasp.
Bank accounts are being frozen, and this isn't just a one-off incident. It's happening everywhere. It's a growing concern that's sending shockwaves through communities, financial institutions, and the marketplace alike. With accounts being frozen left and right, we have to ask ourselves some serious questions about consumer rights and the overall integrity of banking practices. So, what's the impact on everyday folks like you and me? And more importantly, what steps should you take in response? Financial lockdown. Recently, countless stories of people who wake up to discover that their bank accounts have been frozen solid are coming out, and they all tend to follow a pretty predictable storyline. Picture this: someone just received a sizable deposit from a business deal that was supposed to kick off their dreams, or maybe they withdrew a hefty sum to dive into a shiny new investment opportunity. Once they think everything is set, a rude awakening hits them. Confusing rules and a mountain of paperwork come crashing down. Suddenly, they are caught in a whirlwind of bureaucratic red tape. What's even more frustrating is the lack of clear communication from the bank. Instead of straightforward guidance, customers are often left in the dark, facing a maddening waiting game that stretches on for days, if not weeks. It is as if they've been tossed into a maze without a map. But the big question looms over this whole scenario: what is truly behind these account freezes? Are they honestly there to protect consumers like the banks often claim? Or could they simply be a convenient cover for financial institutions to safeguard their own interests? But before we dive into that, take a moment to subscribe to our channel for more updates. Are banks overstepping? Financial institutions have the monumental task of keeping an eye on all the account activity to detect any signs of fraudulent behavior. It's like they are playing a high-stakes game of whack-a-mole, trying to squash bad actions before they escalate. To better understand this, we need to delve into what we mean by suspicious activity. Basically, this refers to any transaction or behavior that doesn't fit the account holder's usual game plan. If your activity suddenly looks suspicious, your bank is likely going to take notice. They rely on sophisticated algorithms and advanced monitoring systems to catch these anomalies. This can include large or unusual transactions, frequent ATM withdrawals in a short time frame, or rapid transfers between different accounts, all of which make banks raise their eyebrows. Say you decided to pull out a massive chunk of cash in one day. This could lead to a freeze, especially if you make several withdrawals at different ATMs. The bank might see it as a red flag and assume you are cashing out on some shady gains. Then there is the classic case of unusual spending patterns, like if you suddenly splurge on a luxury vacation or an expensive item that seems totally out of character for you. Banks love to flag this as potential fraud, and understandably so. They want to protect themselves and you too. An equally suspicious activity involves frequent international transactions. If you are sending money overseas like it is going out of style, banks might suspect you are involved in something more nefarious, like money laundering or worse, financing illegal activities. And let's not forget about those big deposits. If you hit the jackpot, whether winning the lottery or scoring an unexpected inheritance, and don't notify the bank in advance, you could find yourself faced with a quick freeze while they check things out. Legal obligations. Banks have to comply with a myriad of laws and regulations that govern their operations, and they take this seriously. Think about those court orders you hear about on TV. It's not just drama for the screens. If the bank receives a court order or a directive from a government agency, they are often required to take action. Consider the scenario of unpaid debts. If a creditor manages to get a court judgment against someone for outstanding payments, they can ring up the bank and request that the account be frozen to recover those owed funds. On top of that, when criminal investigations come into play, like when law enforcement suspects someone has been engaged in fraud or drug trafficking, the banks might receive requests to freeze accounts to assist in the investigation. It is serious business, and banks must follow these requests. Failing to do so can come with heavy consequences for them. Then we have tax liabilities to think about. Government entities have the authority to freeze accounts when taxes are left unpaid. For example, if someone owes money to the IRS, they can seize funds from bank accounts after due process. That is a wake-up call few want to receive. Regulatory compliance doesn't just stop there, though. It is another critical reason bank accounts find themselves themselves on ice. Banks operate under strict regulations designed to prevent financial crimes, especially following events that underscored the need for heightened vigilance. Looking at you, September 11, anti-money laundering laws impose hefty responsibilities on banks, mandating them to monitor transactions and report suspicious activities that could indicate fraudulent behavior. Here is how it all works. Banks are required to file suspicious activity reports with relevant authorities whenever they spot something fishy. Turning a blind eye isn't an option here. Failure to report could result in severe penalties for the financial institutions involved. Additionally, there are Know Your Customer regulations that require banks to verify their customers' identities and understand their financial backgrounds. If banks don't comply, they are opening themselves up to fines and scrutiny from regulators. So how do banks ensure compliance? They have a few tricks up their sleeves. First up is transaction monitoring systems. Most banks are equipped with advanced technology that analyzes transactions in real time, flagging anything out of the ordinary for further investigation. Have you ever wondered how your bank knows to alert you about suspicious transactions? There it is. This is how. Moreover, bank employees undergo rigorous training focused on identifying suspicious activity and understanding the legal requirements related to freezing accounts. Keeping staff up to date on potential scams and technicalities is crucial to fostering a knowledgeable environment within the institution. Banks also conduct regular audits of their operations to ensure compliance with regulatory standards, which keeps them sharp and accountable when it comes to monitoring accounts. Let's not forget communication. When an account ends up frozen, banks are typically required to inform customers about the reason behind the freeze and what steps they need to take for resolution. However, if an ongoing investigation is in play, the specifics may remain a bit of a mystery, which can leave customers scratching their heads. So, what does all this mean for you, the account holder? Well, being informed about these processes can certainly help you navigate the often murky waters of bank operations. Knowing that the bank's intention in freezing an account is usually to protect against fraud can help ease some concerns. And understanding your rights, knowing that you can inquire about the reasons for a freeze, empowers you when you find yourself in a bind. Public reaction. While some might nod in agreement with the need for security and regulatory compliance, many feel it is an overreach. Nobody likes feeling powerless over their money. The psychological impact is noteworthy. Individuals often experience stress and anxiety linked to the sudden lack of access to funds. In a world where financial freedom is a primary goal for many, feeling restricted is, to put it mildly, disheartening. Moreover, even if you manage to navigate the initial upset, there is the daunting task of trying to resolve the issue. Reaching out to banks for clarity can be a labyrinthine experience. Hold times can stretch for what feels like an eternity, and if you somehow find yourself fortunate enough to get through, there is often a maze of forms and documentation to fill out. Some banks have started to improve their communication regarding account freezes, attempting to ease this tension. They recognize that clear, timely communication with affected customers is crucial. Nonetheless, it is a patchwork of practices. Each bank might have a different approach, and predicting how they will handle a freeze can feel like a game of chance. When your account's frozen, you are not just left waiting. Bills are still due, and life goes on. You can feel the pressure mounting as time ticks away without access to your funds. It is no wonder that feelings of stress and anxiety run high during these situations. The sheer unpredictability of it all can leave anyone reeling, questioning where they stand in a financial system that is supposed to be there to help us. It's an unsettling feeling that many people have experienced. Overall, public sentiment regarding these account freezes tends to lean heavily toward the negative side. Many feel as though banks have simply taken too much power over their finances. Instead of putting customer service first, it seems like the primary focus is often on ticking those regulatory compliance boxes. So why does this matter? When looking at the broader picture, there is a growing clamor among consumers for more structured regulations that delineate exactly how and when banks can freeze accounts. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a clearer understanding of what criteria banks use before taking such drastic actions? Many customers are not just asking for better communication, they are demanding that clearer guidelines and consumer protections be put in place so that the burden doesn't fall solely on the the shoulders of individuals who often feel powerless when faced with these situations. Now let's dig deeper into the implications of these sentiments. People aren't just airing grievances, they are advocating for change. We live in an age where consumers are more empowered than ever, and they're eager to voice their concerns. When you think about it, it makes perfect sense. If you have been wrongly affected by a bank freeze, wouldn't you want to know that there is a system in place that protects you? Whether it is more robust communication practices, established protocols, or even a clear path for appeal, customers are calling out for action. This is about creating a financial landscape where people feel comfortable and secure. No one should have to worry about an arbitrary freeze ruining their month. In navigating these turbulent waters, many people are fortunate enough to have supportive networks that help them weather the storm. However, not everyone has that luxury. Can you imagine being left to tackle all this alone? You might find yourself wading through layers of customer service calls, each more frustrating than the last, simply trying to get the answers you need. With each passing day, you're left wondering how long until you'll regain access to your money. This experience can lead to feelings of isolation and helplessness. The power shift. The first step is empowerment through knowledge. Staying educated about banking policies and regulations can help you better navigate any situations that arise. The more you know, the better you can advocate for yourself. Additionally, consider diversifying your financial arrangements. Having multiple accounts or even utilizing different banking institutions could provide you with more security. Advocating for change is also vital. Now's the time to call for transparency. By voicing your experiences and pushing for clearer guidelines, you can help shape a financial landscape that is both fair and equitable. Imagine a world where customers feel secure and informed, not just left wondering what will happen next. As we think about the future, we should ask ourselves some critical questions. How can banks create a system that prioritizes both financial security and effective communication? What steps can be taken to ensure that customers know their rights and have access to their funds when they need them most? These questions deserve thoughtful discussions, and together we can inspire change. We might not have all the solutions right now, but together we can work toward a conversation centered on accountability, trust, and consumer protection in the banking world. And let's not forget, the banking industry is currently undergoing a major transformation driven by cutting-edge technology that is revolutionizing how account monitoring is performed. Let's start with an overview of banking technology as it stands today. The digital age dilemma. In recent years, banks have increasingly turned to sophisticated technologies to keep tabs on accounts and spot any suspicious activities. The integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning stands out as a game-changing development. These technologies have completely reshaped how financial institutions analyze customer behavior and transaction patterns. Can you imagine a world where algorithms work tirelessly behind the scenes, scrutinizing every transaction in real time to keep your money secure? So how exactly do these banks harness the power of algorithms to sniff out suspicious behaviors? Well, it turns out they deploy complex algorithms designed to sift through a mountain of transaction data almost instantaneously. These algorithms are smart enough to identify patterns that could indicate fraud or other suspicious behavior. And one key functionality is behavioral analysis. Here is how it works. Algorithms establish a baseline of what normal account behavior looks like by examining historical transaction data. This means they consider factors like your typical spending habits, transaction sizes, and frequency of purchases. When something deviates from this established norm, red flags are raised, leading to alerts for further investigation. Anomaly detection is another impressive feature of these advanced machine learning techniques. Let's say you are an everyday shopper making small purchases consistently, but one day you inexplicably decide to make a massive withdrawal or transfer. All bets are off. The system is trained to flag such discrepancies as suspicious behavior. It is no wonder that banks have invested heavily in these technologies. These systems are essentially continuously learning and updating as they process more transactions. With every new piece of data, they get better at distinguishing between normal behavior and potential fraud. Pros and cons. It's no secret that this brings significant advantages to the table, especially concerning fraud detection. For starters, speed and efficiency are the name of the game. Automated systems can analyze thousands of transactions in just seconds, identifying potentially fraudulent activities at lightning speed, much faster than human analysts could ever dream. Moreover, these systems offer round-the-clock surveillance. Unlike human staff who need breaks and time off, automated systems operate 24/7 with relentless dedication. This means your accounts are constantly under watch, ensuring any suspicious activity is either flagged or acted upon almost immediately. Scalability is another beautiful advantage. As transaction volumes increase, these automated systems can easily expand to handle more data. Banks don't need to hire a small army of analysts to keep up, which is a huge win for their bottom line. Additionally, automating the routine monitoring tasks reduces labor costs tied to manual reviews, allowing human resources to focus on more complex investigations that need a human touch. However, as with all things, there are inherent risks that come along with relying on these automated systems. Let's talk about one of the more frustrating downsides: the rise in false positives. Imagine logging into your account only to find it frozen because a transaction you made, one you thought was perfectly normal, was flagged as suspicious. High rates of false positives can leave customers feeling furious and confused, leading to unnecessary account freezes when they are just trying to go about their business. Then we have the impact on the customer experience. Frequent account freezes or requests for additional verification can leave customers feeling like they are being treated with suspicion, which is less than ideal. If you are constantly having to reassure your bank that you are not committing fraud, trust in the institution starts to dissipate. Surges in false positives can also put added pressure on fraud detection teams, diverting their attention from genuine threats. This can result in slower response times when real fraud cases need urgent attention, creating a dangerous scenario. Algorithmic bias is another critical concern that we cannot overlook. Sometimes, because algorithms learn from historical data, they can unintentionally perpetuate existing biases. This means certain demographics or behaviors may be subjected to unwarranted scrutiny that doesn't reflect actual risk. Who wants to be categorized as suspicious based solely on an algorithm's flawed logic? It is a sticky situation that is gaining attention and requires ongoing dialogue. When it comes to understanding the ins and outs of bank account freezes, a solid grasp of the legal framework surrounding them is absolutely essential. Let's break it down for you. Defining the line. Now, let's flip the coin and look at the rights of account holders. As a customer, you have every right to access your funds and make use of your account without unwarranted interference. But here's the catch. This right can be curtailed if there is a legitimate legal basis for the freeze. It is like a balancing act if an account is frozen without actual legal authority, such as a court order, that could lead to grounds for a wrongful freezing claim against the bank. Under the Bank Secrecy Act, banks are required to report any suspicious activity that could indicate money laundering or fraud. Should a bank uncover such activities while monitoring accounts, it may then freeze an account while carrying out further investigations. In this scenario, the institution is not just acting on a whim, it is fulfilling its legal obligation to protect the integrity of its operations and the financial system at large. But it doesn't stop there. State regulations also play a crucial role in governing how banks can freeze accounts. These laws often provide additional protections for consumers, giving them a bit of breathing room. For instance, some states mandate that banks must notify account holders before implementing a freeze on their accounts. This notification allows individuals a chance to contest the freeze, often leading to a fairer process. Judicial oversight further shapes these practices. In many jurisdictions, courts oversee the legality and fairness of account freezes through mechanisms like injunctions or restraining orders. This adds an extra layer of scrutiny, ensuring that banks can't just freeze accounts at will. Essentially, a bank typically has to secure a court order to freeze an account unless it is acting upon specific orders issued by law enforcement agencies. We also need to consider the various agencies involved in all of this. Numerous government agencies can direct banks to freeze accounts during investigations tied to financial crimes or regulatory compliance issues. For instance, in the US, the Internal Revenue Service has the authority to institute freezes for unpaid taxes, while other anti-corruption bodies in different countries may freeze accounts linked to suspected fraud or corruption. These agencies don't just throw their weight around. Their involvement often pertains to safeguarding the integrity of the financial system and protecting the public. Now, let's talk about what you should do if you find your account frozen. Practical tips. First and foremost, if you find out that your bank account has been frozen, the first step is to reach out to your financial institution immediately. They should be able to provide you with some information regarding why the freeze occurred. It is crucial to address this as soon as possible. The sooner you act, the faster you can possibly resolve the issue. In many cases, the bank may require additional documentation from you to verify your identity or clarify the activity that triggered the freeze. Be prepared to supply any necessary paperwork. This could include identification, transaction records, or even explanations of recent transactions. Transparency from your end can go a long way in easing concerns the bank may have regarding the validity of your account activities. Moreover, if you believe that the freeze was enacted without proper legal authority, like lacking a court order, you might want to seek legal counsel to understand your rights. A lawyer who specializes in banking or consumer rights can offer valuable guidance and may help you expedite the resolution of the freeze. Lastly, if applicable, familiarize yourself with your rights under state laws. Many states afford you particular protections when your account is frozen. This may include the right to contest the freeze or require notification prior to it being executed. Knowing your rights not only helps you understand your situation better, but also empowers you to advocate for yourself effectively. Now you are probably asking, how can I prevent my account from being frozen in the first place? Monitoring accounts. Let's talk about the practice of regularly monitoring your accounts for any unusual activity. This is arguably one of the most effective strategies you can employ to prevent an account freeze from catching you off guard. Keeping a close eye on your transactions can quickly help you identify any suspicious activity before it escalates. Start with the basics. Set up alerts. Most banks today offer alert systems that notify you about significant transactions, changes in your balance, or even login attempts. Then, make it a habit to review your bank statements frequently. This means checking for discrepancies, unauthorized transactions, or anything that doesn't sit right with you. Think of it as a mini treasure hunt. Look for patterns that deviate from your regular spending habits. This proactive approach not only helps in catching potential fraud early, but also keeps you aware of how you're managing your finances. And let's not forget the importance of keeping your bank informed about any travel plans or unusual transactions. Informing your bank in advance can make a world of difference in reducing the risk of an account freeze. Banks often flag transactions that occur in unfamiliar locations or involve large sums of money as suspicious. This means that your trip to Paris could potentially trigger a fraud alert if you haven't let them know about it. So before you pack your bags for that dream vacation or plan to make some big purchases, reach out to your bank, let them know where you'll be traveling, and even share the dates with them. This way they can recognize that any transactions coming from those locations are legitimate. Also, if you plan to make any significant deposits or withdrawals, for instance, the sale of a vehicle or receiving an inheritance, documenting this ahead of time can prevent misunderstandings. Provide your bank with the necessary paperwork to explain the source of funds. This transparency not only builds trust, but can really help in preventing an unnecessary freeze. Peer-to-peer transactions have gained popularity, but they come with their own set of risks. If you decide to engage in peer-to-peer transactions, ensure that everyone involved is reputable and has an established history of similar dealings. A valuable piece of advice: avoid using terms related to cryptocurrency in your transaction descriptions. Why? Because mentioning cryptocurrency can draw unwanted scrutiny from banks, raising red flags that lead to freezes. To wrap it up, preventing account freezes is all about staying vigilant and proactive, implementing these best practices, from regular account monitoring and keeping banks informed about transactions, to thoroughly understanding the bank's policies and maintaining transparent practices, can make a world of difference. Knowledge truly is power. So how do you stay on top of your banking game? Have you got any tips or horror stories of your own when navigating financial institutions? What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comment below and keep this conversation rolling.